This looks hard. Anytime there's 3 bells, it's going to be hard.
That's why you do all the demos.
Welcome and welcome back. Hey, in this video, we're going to talk about the arm position in the squat. Should you stay in the rack the whole time? If your arm has to disconnect, what's an ideal strategy? And what factors should you consider, along with some basic rules? And remember, we don't always wear black. So when we don't, this is what we wear. Okay? So let's get started. Okay. Should you stay in the rack the whole time?
Probably not.
Okay. Damn it.
This is advice that's been passed around a bit. I've heard it a few times. I don't know if you've heard this or not.
Yeah.
Leads to a little bit of confusion. So let's start with the rack position. So, rack position is about having ideal contact between usually the upper part of your arm and your rib cage, somewhere around there. Is the rack position good? Yes, it is. It's strong. It integrates the weight into your body. So by extension, I've heard the suggestion that when you're squatting, when you're doing a rack squat, you should maintain the rack position while you do that. The problem is there's something called physiological impossibility for certain people.
Sounds fascinating.
I made that up.
Okay.
When you get into certain body types with certain bells, the physics just don't work. It doesn't balance. People will fall over. So we were actually working with this at Kettlebell Club yesterday, and I asked Jeremiah to try to do it, and he got about this deep in the squat, and then his brain's like, nope, not going to do that because I'm going to fall. So you have to understand the foundation of this, and really what this comes down to is center of mass. So go ahead and face forward if you will. So center of mass it's not a fixed static point. It's the center of your body. Generally when it's standing, in most humans, it's right around there. That shifts. If he bends forward, his center of mass is going to move forward toward where the additional mass is moving. The gravity can exert more torque against his spine. He's going to be heavier here. His center of mass is going to move forward. And as a result of that, where his center is and how he balances himself will change. When you squat, you have to send part of your body back. Part of your mass moves backwards as soon as the pelvis moves away from the feet. The degree to which that happens comes down to body type, how long are your legs, and we're not going to get into that much today, but I do know that this guy has long legs. In order for him to squat...
We measured him.
We did. He has to send his butt back farther than I do and farther than a lot of people. So because he has a lot of mass that needs to move forward, he needs to balance that. So think of center of mass as where the center of your mass is going to be, and if a lot of it is moving backwards, that center of mass is going to move backwards as well. Luckily, we have a nice heavy kettlebell to balance going forward. So if you get like the whole scale analogy, as one side gets weighted, you're going to weight the other side and you're going to maintain some balance. So there's going to be a huge input by the mass of the bell. So we've got a 12 kilo bell, we've got a 24 kilo bell, we've got a 40 kilo bell. And when we move these different bells, because they have different masses, they're able to offset more of his mass. So what this comes down to is center of mass. If he squats, he needs to maintain balance. If he can't maintain balance, he's not going to be able to squat. It's as simple as that. So how does he get his torso upright? Because that's what you're going to need to maintain this. Otherwise, you're going into a squat like that, which is going to be really hard on the biceps, good for you, but you're probably not going to be able to go very heavy. No. So what we're looking at is the ability really to keep the torso vertical, and certain loads are going to allow him to do that better than others. So the options that I've seen, just go ahead and turn to the side if you will. The options that I've seen as people squat down, they drop and this elbow comes up a little bit and away. I've seen the arm coming forward. Okay, that allows, again, this brings more of that forward and allows this to move back. Or my least favorite is the people who are really big on don't move at all, don't let your forearms disconnect. There's a huge bend that happens right about there.
That doesn't feel great.
In order to try to get your torso more vertical. So this is really what's going on. So there are a few different strategies that you can use. Let's go ahead and look at how he moves each of these different bells, and let's see what we see. So let's go ahead and start with the 24.
Okay.
So we're going to do a rack squat here. So take a note. This is completely off the body here. He's got some contact in there, but not a lot of contact there. Go ahead and stand up. Okay, go ahead and do a little rest and do one more of those, and I want to demonstrate.
Okay.
So if he brings this hand forward, he can get more vertical now. Okay, he can get more vertical, and he could theoretically keep this closer, or he could bring this in and he could lift up that way. So those are two strategies that allow his arm or his torso to be a little more vertical. Are you going to be able to use both of those with the same size bell? The answer is no. The 24 kilo, he can do that. But as soon as you bring your arm forward, we went over this a little bit, a lot last week with the moment arm. As soon as he brings his arm where the bell is, so if we're dealing with this axis of rotation and this is where the force is, when he moves this away from this moment arm becomes longer. It's putting a lot of strain on that muscle. So as the bell gets heavier, he's going to want to actually lift that way if he needs to disconnect, because again, he can't keep his torso vertical, not quite. He'll be able to be more vertical with the heavier bell because it offsets more of his mass, but he's not going to be able to be completely vertical. So he's going to need to do this in order to keep the bells from dumping over. The advantage of this, and this is generally the preferred technique, especially when you get heavier, is this moves the mass back toward him rather than away. So he's less likely to dump here. You do want to keep in mind, and you'll see once he grabs that 40, he's going to be pushing into his body. So even though this portion of his arm is not going to be in contact with his rib cage anymore, he's still pushing in to his body, this part of his rib cage, pretty hard. He's still maintaining that connection as much as he can, because you always want to do that. And even if your arm is way up here, you still have something. Let's go ahead and do the 40.
Am I going to stay down there a long time?
No.
Okay. Mental prep.
So automatically he's more vertical because of the extra weight. His elbow is coming off a little bit. He's maintaining his connection, and pop up.
That was in real time, y'all.
So with this mass, there's not a lot that he's going to be able to do. I could have had him do this. The bell was going to fall out or fall forward. We
could try.
Let's not try. So there's no need to do that. But again, what you saw is he did remain more vertical because he had extra weight. The elbow did lift up a little bit, okay, but he maintained tension in here. He didn't have a bend through his spine, which is something we don't want. So when we're wrapping this up, you know, the rack position is really about being able to maintain a vertical torso. Certain things are going to help you do that better than others. As the bell gets heavier, it will be less of a problem, which is good because it's going to be a lot harder to manipulate the bell as it gets heavier anyway. If you do need to move it, you want to move it back towards your torso rather than increasing the moment arm and moving it back. It's not really going to be ideal in most cases, especially when you get heavy, to do that. Okay, so we don't want to do that. But let's look at the 12 kilo, because there's an exception to this rule. Once the bell gets light enough, and you can actually push the bell forward and keep the torso. Yep.
Okay, that was way easier than I thought.
So you can push the bell forward, you can cap it, you can use two hands. Okay. So you see how vertical he gets there because he's pushing that moment arm forward, or he's extending the moment arm by pushing the bell forward. Which way is easier, with the bell forward or back?
Well, I was already down there, so let's see as I go down. As you can see, it's easier to have it out there to off balance to keep that vertical torso.
So we're not suggesting that that's the right way to squat. If you are working toward increasing depth, you should understand that pushing a weight forward, giving you a little bit of an offset, can help you get deeper. I have used it successfully with people we coach to get more depth. Can be really handy with going through pistols. But the idea is this. Again, center of mass is what this is really all about. Are you going to be able to keep your arm connected to your body? Probably not. But if you are going to move it, you want to make sure that you're moving the elbow up and in. That way you've got some contact here. What we want to avoid is dumping the bell forward through the elbow, and we want to avoid arching through the spine here.
Even though it looks good on stripper stages?
No, well.
Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Scratch that. I used to be young. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, on that note, stay strong, everybody. Oh yeah, wait. Download our app, Bells by Iron Revival. You can do your squats right in there. Okay.
Okay.
All right, cool.